And these are essentially just all-time lows, right?
These are all like low risk. The most expensive card is $20. Magic the Gathering released thousands of cards this year. They release thousands of cards every year. We have picked through them and found the 20 best reprints from those cards that we think should be on your radar before you mentally move on from 2024.
And we know that 2025 is going to be packed with so much like this. So if you enjoyed this video by the end of it, definitely subscribe. There will be many more like it. We're going to talk about great pickups right now. Let's get into the video. Big thank you to all of our channel patrons that power the channel through Patreon. Thank you for your continued support over the years. We really appreciate you all so much.
Jake and Joel Are Magic is brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your cards quickly and easily online. Dragon Shield, the best way to protect your cards, best sleeves you can possibly get. TCG Player, the best place to go to buy your cards online. Moxfield, where we put all of our deck lists and MTG stocks for tracking prices.
What else do we have?
That's it. I just knocked them all out.
You can also find us on Drip.
Just to set expectations on this list, all of these are base copies of cards that were reprinted this year. We didn't go with any of the future side stuff. Nothing's foil or special frame. We'll mention some special frames that we think are, worth a look because they are so close in price to that base copy, but we're really focused on just base copies here.
Now we got doubling season starting things off. $29 right now for just a base copy. I kind of want to set the stage here. Doubling season from Ravnica in March of 2023 hit a price of around $90 or around $100. So we're talking about a card, scarce, gets a reprint, now much more affordable than it was. If you bought at that $100 point, you were probably like, man, look at the price of it now.
It's rare that a card makes this list for us 2 years running. Doubling season was definitely on our reprints of the year last year, being in Wilds of Eldraine right after Commander Masters. This card has just been parfaited all to hell over the past 2 years, and now with base copies under $30 obtainable. Certainly Jake and mine boomer price memory thinks this is an incredibly expensive card, but now it's very affordable, 20 to $30, and this is the last set that's come out, and so it hasn't even hit that 6-month mark of potential lowest yet. Being a base copy, this one's got a lot of potential, but I'll tell you, this is a card like any of the alters that were printed in Double Masters 22 that only come around so often. At the time, these cards get down and you're like, $25, it'll be $25 again. If it dodges a reprint for a while, it won't be the case, and that's kind of why we try to call them out when there are base copies that are easily obtainable. But I think Foundations, Jake, that's also something to note here, that this set being standard legal for some time should keep this card in print at the very least.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of these cards where Wizards of the Coast was like, you know what, we'll use that one to really cash in and help people get the most out of Foundations. And it's one of these cards that's just, oh man, it's played in so many different decks, and it's just such a strong card. In standard, it's kind of difficult to think, okay, we're going to get to 5. That's a format that's going to be a lot faster. And so I think it's just a good kind of commander card that they kind of lumped into that set, and we have a really nice price on it right now.
A good price on a card right now is Jeska's Will, around $19. This was one first printed in Commander Legends, and then we saw it again in Battle for Baldur's Gate. Murders at Karlov Manor, Commander decks. That's where we saw this. You can just go buy this on a shelf still right now. It's sitting in that pre-con box. And so having this card, which, by the way, you're talking about power level, any red deck can make an argument for this card as far as I'm concerned, just based on raw, generic playability. Right now, this card being at $19, I'm interested to see whether or not this is one that they continue to put into pre-cons, or if this is one where they're like, all right, we got it down under the 20 mark. That'll be one of our, sort of format definers.
Yeah, really good sorcery, and it's down from an all-time high price on that Commander Legends version of around $28, which was from April of 2021. Being at 19, we're looking at almost like a $10 drop from that. Yeah, it is probably a card that's going to be used to push secret layers. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
It was in the Storm layer, so it's certainly already been done.
Storm's layer. It's also, just that commander deck as well. Like you're saying, will they do that again? Who knows?
Yep, we'll see. Jake, land cycles are always our favorite in a year, and this year we got a couple of very specific cycles that we need to talk about, but some standalones as well. Phyrexian Tower popping back up. You can get a MH3 base copy that you're looking at right here for like $15 right now.
Wow, that's extremely, extremely low. The old Urza's version got as high as $100 at one point, and that was in February of 2024. And so that's obviously not the same version, but Phyrexian Tower is one of these cards. Let's look at Ultimate Masters, which is, a more recent card. That was $50 in April, around 45 to $50. So this coming down from that range to here is really good. I run this in Imskir. I love having a land that's able to sacrifice something that's about to get pathed, for example.
Exactly.
It has really good utility from just wanting to float more mana or keeping stuff out of range of interaction that has to do with exile.
Instant speed sacrifice has more utility than most people give it credit for. I completely agree with you. Fantastic land to grab. Jake, as are the fetch lands. These were sort of the highlight of the year. It's crazy to think back a few years ago about how called for fetch land reprints were at the time. And now, here at the end of 24, I'm looking at polluted deltas for $13. You can go get fetch lands now, dog. Everybody can go get fetch lands now.
There's no time like the present.
Yes.
Let's just say that as far as fetch lands go. These lands, when Modern was in its heyday before we got into the Booster Fund era, these were expensive, dude. I mean, I'm looking at all sorts of different polluted deltas. Let's just look at the ones from Khans of Tarkir, because this was the big thing, is like Khans polluteds were as high as $54 at one point. And so
you can get those for about the same price now, dude. They're about the same price as the MH3 base copies. Those Khans OGs are like $13 as well. And we put this on there to be obviously representative of all the fetch lands. We're just looking at polluted delta because a lot of times it's a high watermark.
Use MTG stocks. Shout out to our sponsor, MTG stocks. This is a really good way to kind of track the long-term price memory of these cards. When Joel's saying this polluted delta has gone down to $13, he's not kidding. You have a card that got very topped out around 50s and it was scarce. Then it gets reprinted into the Booster Fund era. It's getting 3 different versions, and now we are looking at cards that were $55 that are down to $13. So make sure you subscribe over here at Jake and Joel. We're going to make sure that you can build your collection on a budget.
If you know that we're talking about fetches, you know that we're talking about shocks as well. We got to start the year with a major shock parfait. When I say parfait to people who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm talking like base copy, extended copy, showcase copy. That's how a lot of major cards are printed these days. And so what that does is that drives the price of that base copy further and further down because it's more obtainable and less scarce than the stuff at the top, and prices fall out to where they are. Watery Grave now. Jake, this one, representative of all the shocks, but you can get $14. You can get a copy of Watery Grave for $14. The original, like, Guilds of Ravnica Gate Crash stuff is down to $13, even cheaper. The Infinity Galaxy non-foils are at $30, and that just tells you how much this reprint pulled the market for shocks down into the Watery Grave.
Just keeping it consistent with Watery Grave, you have a card that topped out at an all-time high of like $30, and that was in 2022, so down significantly from that $30 point.
This was a great one, and honestly, we don't know how often these kinds of things are going to pop up again, which is why we try to call them out before everybody moves on and somebody with a ton of capital comes through and just buys up all the copies or something on TCG Player and makes them go crazy. Tendershoot Dryad left unchecked will go crazy. We got there. Transition successful.
There we go.
$10.50 for the Bloomborough Commander reprint from this year, Jake. Listen to this. The Rivals of Ixalan, which was the first and only version of this prior, is down to like $6.50. I think people like the set symbol, dude. The little flowery shield set symbol that the Bloomborough comes with, that's the only difference I can find on these cards. When I saw these pricing differences, that the OG was now $4 less than the one from this year, I was like, what is possible? I put them side by side. I was like, maybe there's like a rules clarification or some Oracle thing was changed between, and this one has the correct wording, and so that's Nothing. Everything looks the same. If you know, please let us know in the comments why this is possibly the case, other than me suggesting that maybe it's just the flower set symbol that is pulling people to this. But look, this is an incredibly strong creature. You want this in your decks, and it's been scarce up until getting the reprint in a commander deck this year.
Yeah, this one as well, all-time high of $18.69 for the Rivals version. So yeah,
it's good. It's a really good card.
It is a good card.
It gets out of control so quickly, but you definitely want
everything it needs to do by itself.
Exactly, right? Exactly. You definitely want to get it around the $10 range, as do you want to grab an Achroma's Will around the $10 range. Jake, this came from our Modern Horizons 3 commander decks this year.
Commander Legends version topped out at around, $36 for the extended version. And then also around $21, $22 for the base copy version from Commander Legends. So when it gets hit with a big reprint in a deck, you're going to see a significant drop in price. It doesn't make the effect of the card any less significant. And I'm sure some of you watching are like, well, all the cards should be $1. Well, they're not. It is what it is. It is down from an all-time high price to about 50% of that price. And so that's why we're bringing it up and getting this card on your radar.
Last year, it was in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan commander decks as well. Looks like maybe once a year-ish, they're happy to throw us some major commander reprints. And I call this commander reprints because it says the word commander on it. And so Jake and I are always going to consider those cards more difficult than your average card to reprint, because your average set just doesn't need a card that says the word commander on it. But
there you go.
Putting it into your precons, like a Jeska's Will, stuff like that, that's a good place for it to show up, especially if they want to kind of keep the allure of the card, keep it $5 to $10. Putting out there occasionally may be a good way to keep up with it. We also got Jake Swarmyard from Bloomborough Commander deck this year. This card originally was in Time Spiral, and then it was in Time Spiral Remastered. And I remember it being a big deal as a reprint in Time Spiral Remastered. But now you've got this for the same price, $10, as the Time Spiral Remastered version. You can get it here with Vulcan Baga art on it.
This card is really cool. The old Time Spiral one got as high as $24. We're slashing prices over here, baby. These are cards that when they get a reprint, they go down in price. We like to notify you when cards hit an all-time high. Just like this list today, we have another series where we talk about cards to not buy, cards that have hit an all-time high price, and it's probably better to just proxy them, wait for them to be reprinted. What we know these days is that Wizards of the Coast has so many different sets that they put out constantly that they are in a pretty constant state of tapping reprint equity and pumping it into whatever set so that we can, look at Edgar Markov. That's going to be part of Innistrad Remastered.
Right.
This is the kind of thing to look out for. And yeah, we're at a pretty good price for this card right now.
It's very niche. It's not applicable in a ton of decks. And so reprints can overwhelmingly affect cards like this that were scarce but niche. The decks that wanted them really wanted them, but there just weren't a ton of copies. Now there are. I'll tell you though, Jake, there are cards like Heroic Intervention that it seems like it doesn't matter how many copies of this they print, it stays around a $10 card. This thing could start to be our S&P 500 for Magic the Gathering's overall health. It's like, is Heroic Intervention a $10 card? Have they reprinted it 3 times in the last year? Okay, we're good. The market is healthy. That is just,
we have to do it again.
It's become this weird card, man. Every time I see it, I'm like, cool, that's going to be a $5 card now. Nope. $10 for the Fallout copy. It just stays at $10. It was just reprinted in Doctor Who decks. It was just reprinted in Commander Masters. Before that, it was Adventures in the Forgotten Realm Commander decks. Prior to that, it was M21. We know that copy with a Johnny. This card just, they can't get it below $10. I challenge you, Magic the Gathering. Get this card below $10.
It is like every time it gets a reprint, all the Commander players are like, we are buying the dip.
Yes.
We are buying the dip.
I need it for all my green decks.
Yeah, it is a card that, there's not many cards that do this, but it defies physics.
It definitely defies physics.
All-time high on the Aether Revolt version, like $19.99.
Yeah.
So $20 card, it gets reprinted, goes to $5. They buy the dip. and it lives at 10. So that's the world we live in.
Yeah, watch for heroic interventions. This is a card where I'm not saying it won't be a while before it reprints. It'll probably be in the next round of commander decks, but it will go down and then go back to $10. I warn you, just keep it on your radar. Talk to us about old Urza's Incubator.
This is a good card. You know, a lot of Kindred decks need this card. Creature spells of the chosen type cost 2 less to cast.
So
it costs
strong.
3, and it makes all your stuff so much less expensive, significantly less expensive. It's a card that has been very expensive until it got reprinted, and now we're looking at a copy here that is, well, I'm looking for the price.
About $10 for the MH3 base copy, and then it parfaits up from there. It's got an extended, and it's got a retro from Dominaria Remastered. It's got a showcase from DMR.
Yeah.
Lots of options on this card now.
All-time high on the Urza's Destiny version, $54.97. That's at like peak scarcity 2021. And this was just one of those cards where I'm sure people were like, oh yeah, I got to have an Urza's Incubator for my deck.
Yeah.
Which is why that price gets so high. Now it gets reprinted. It's less than a fifth of that price right now to acquire a more modern version.
Yes, especially some of the larger, stompier tribes. Yes, especially some of the larger, stompier creature types, dragons, Eldrazi. I'll tell you, when I start with this in my opening hand in my Eldrazi deck, I'm like, you had my interest, Eldrazi, but now you have my attention. We're maybe going to win this game at lightning speed. Really a big fan of this, and yeah, it's just everybody who wants it needs the copy, and so Wizards doesn't really have much option between power creep it out, which is like, oof, please don't power creep this card. Please don't power creep this card by printing a strictly better version. Please, God, just reprint it and give the people what they want, and that's the route they've chosen. So now you can get a copy of it for like $10, which ain't bad. Jake, this is a card that I was particularly excited to see. Neon Dynasty. This card isn't that old, Kodama of the West Tree, but it's really strong. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search for a basic and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Modifications cover equipment, auras, and counters, and so there's a lot of different archetypes that Kodama of the West Tree crosses, and now $8. Not only has the price been hit pretty hard and it's into a good pickup range of under $10, but you got brand new art. The Neon Dynasty had different art. So you've got sort of a more cartoony anime approach, as Foundations brought us with a lot of different art here. I mean, $17 for a base copy of the Neon Dynasty version. And right now you can grab this for $8. There's just a really big price disparity right now between the older copies and this newer copy that I think people really haven't even realized maybe it showed up, because Foundations is one of those kind of like under the radar sets.
Yeah, I agree with all your points.
It's a strong one, man, and it was nice to see it. Second Harvest kind of fell into a weird place, you know, good reprint, but art that I think is going to attract more people than the previous one.
Yeah, Bloomburrow art on this card. For each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. It's just a good card for token decks, and it's hit a price that's very low risk at this point.
It's actually an interesting one because it's around $8 for this right now. You can actually get the Shadows over Innistrad copy for $4. I'm just a little worried that the cards with, you know, bunny art or cute stuff from Bloomburrow are going to have a higher premium going forward, and people are going to miss the opportunity to get the treatment that they really want, because it's like, a bunny copy of Second Harvest is up to $20, dude. What the? I mean, I guess I'll get the Shadows over Innistrad version. It's only $5. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little worried of that kind of thing happening, but cool card nonetheless, and great to see reprints of it.
And then we have Helm of the Host. We all know that this card is very strong. Also, you can see that Bloomburrow symbol. Helm of the Host was as high as $30 for the Dominaria copy at one point, but as we can see, these reprints really knock the price down. The price for this copy right now for the Bloomburrow version is around $8 as well.
Right around $8 for Bloomburrow Commander version. It's kind of funny. We've gotten all versions now. This is an $8 card the market has decided. Bloomburrow Commander version you're looking at here is $8. Original Dominaria copy is down to $8. Those cards basically look the same, minus the set symbol. And then the retro version is also $8. The sketch version is a little bit more expensive. That's kind of the premium choice for the Helm of the Host right now. But at $8, we're into that range. All the rest of these cards are around $7 or $8 and have been higher at other points in their lives.
Getting through to Seedborn Muse. This is a card everybody knows about. Untap all permanents you control during each player's untap step. All-time high price of $35.98. That was as recent as February for the version from Legions. Seedborn is pretty much the only card that matters from Legions. It's had a bunch of secret layer printings. It was printed in Battle Bond. I remember this version.
Yeah.
Battle Bond version, probably better to look at than Legions, had an all-time high price of 21. So if you like this effect, if you're in green, if you need it, $8 seems a lot better than $21.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Saw in Half came to us from the Unfinity set, and not only had wacky art, but was from a wacky set that most people wanted to, I think, ignore, if we're being completely honest. Now you've got the card fully fleshed out in an actual Magic frame, real Magic art. Nobody can argue, other than I don't like it when it's all critters, that this isn't like Magic at its core. We've got an internal universes within version of Saw in Half. It's down to like $8. The original Infinity's back down to like around $6. So you can see where the market's already preferring. They're like, I want the one with the squirrel and not the weird chainsaw clown. You can get the chainsaw clown version for like $14 in Galaxy foil now, which is way lower than that one was. But yeah, wow. This is one I think this will be kind of the definitive copy of Saw in Half for a while, I would assume.
I imagine so. It fits with the theme. It's a very morbid squirrel going to town here. There are, honestly, crazy prices for this card. If you look at the MTG stocks chart, it has a very wild all-time high price for the Infinity version that gets like as high as like $70 something, but we're just going to ignore that. I don't think it was ever actually around that.
Nah.
But yeah, this reprint has brought it into a reasonable range for the people that are, looking to saw their worm coil engine in half. It used to be a dockside.
Really? I mean, saw, yeah, whatever. It's all going to be value and insane. Jake, it's crazy that we're talking about this card to me because this card was kind of a meme in our Discord. There was somebody buying up all the copies of Yavimaya Cradle of Growth that they possibly could, comparing it to Urborg early on. Everybody's sort of laughing at them. I mean, if that person bought up copies at $1 and $2 like crazy and was able to move them, maybe there was a move there. It never
got there.
But
it never, ever got there. The all-time low price was $8 for Yavimaya.
So there you go. It's only gone up from that. We're back to $8 as the price for this card with your Modern Horizons 3 Commander printing here. It's same for the base copy of MH2 as well. So as long as there's supply of this, it seems like the market's like, it's a $7 or $8 card.
This one to me is just so niche, dude. It's a card that's like, it's very specific. Like if you need that effect, then great. But where like Urborg, for example, seems like you get a lot more miles out of Urborg than Yavimaya.
What's supportive cards too? Because I think that cards that count swamps, those can be more impactful so far in design in Commander than cards that count forests. I mean, what are we like trying to power up our Blanchwood armor?
Right, exactly. So it's like Urborg and Cabal Coffers, for example, go hand in hand. Yes. You're like, okay, now we're cooking. Yeah, it's very different, but it's also a card that you do need to have on your radar because there could be something that comes out that just makes this absolutely cracked. It's like some new creature that gets +X for each forest, or just something absolutely zany.
Or they just print green Cabal Coffers and they're just like, screw it. That's what's going to lead our Modern Horizons 4 set is an insane green mana creator. I don't know what it could be, but yeah, Yavimaya is for sure one that the price has been brought down, at least in the short term. Veyron was a commander that just popped off as far as the price because it was only available in Commander 2021. Turns out it's powerful to have a Harmonicon effect for anything out of the command zone that you can play around with, plan around for. $7 now for the Outlaws of Thunder Junction copy. This just came straight up in the Stella deck. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool because the all-time high price of the other version was around $40 in April of 2021. So a pretty significant drop here.
Love it when a legend like gets more expensive than the pre-con commander that it came in. Jake, Chatterfang, talking about commanders. This is one where you can get a $7 version of this right now. You're looking at it. The $7 Bloomburrow commander version that got reprinted. It's right here, $7. But for $11, we've got the Imagine Critters like showcase version of Chatterfang with the squirrel army behind him. He's looking badass. He's got a sword. And so the price difference there is not that big right now. And in my personal opinion, that'll be not only the more difficult one for them to reprint with that art, not saying they can't, but it's potential that that's pseudo reserve list art. But that will be right now, looking at all of the Chatterfang options, I think the one that people lean toward for wanting.
Yeah, I think so as well. This is a really crazy card. When it first debuted, you know, it had an all-time high price of 60 something dollars, which is just shenanigans pre-sale spike. But the fact that it can come down so drastically from there kind of speaks to how it is never really prudent to buy stuff when it's in that hype phase. More often than not, like 95 to 98% of the time. And that's completely accurate truth.
Really good. I was thinking to myself, I was like, that statistic was accurate as hell.
It's so accurate. Is that when like 98% of the time you are going to get burned if you buy something at a pre-sale price these days.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very rarely. Only the tip of the tip top will not perform that way, to Jake's 98% point.
And then Goldspan Dragon here. This is a card that, you know, we have seen it extremely expensive, and we have now seen it extremely cheap.
It's been good in Standard. It's been good in Commander. It will stay good in Commander for all the reasons that you know it's good. $7 to grab a copy now. That Kaldheim copy, I think, got up into the 40s or 50s, if I'm not mistaken.
The Kaldheim copy got as high as $48.88.
And like
massive treasure.
This is a strong effect. Support. Hugely strong effect, but like that's a lot to be paying for one dragon that's going to get aced and give you a treasure token in recompense. I will say, every copy of Goldspan Dragon that has been printed, which hasn't been a ton, but there are quite a few now, looks the exact same. It's this Andrew Marr art. Frame doesn't look any different. There is a secret layer version, Dungeons and Dragons version. That is the only other, quote unquote, other version of Goldspan Dragon that exists right now. And at $16, I was actually kind of shocked that a card this powerful in its only special version, especially being a secret layer version, not to push anybody into FOMO, but $16 doesn't seem like that high of a price for those gold spans from that layer. And, you know, secret layers, I'll put it this way. Secret layer cards have a tendency to go up in price, very rarely down.
Typically. Yes.
Yeah. Those are, as far as we can find, some of the best reprints that you need to have your eyes on this year. As we go into 25, maybe you're not going to buy any Innistrad Remastered. Spend some cash on some of these reprint cards. And if you get them off TCG Player, use our link. It would be much appreciated.
It will be in the pinned comments if you want to check that out. If any of these cards are tickling your fancy, definitely use the Jake Joe link. It costs you nothing more, and it helps out the channel a great deal.
I can't remember if we actually said that there will be 20 cards. For some reason, our thing skipped it. The secret 20th card was the Reaver Cleaver. Enjoy. There's a little secret.
There you go.
There's a little secret Easter egg for staying till the end. The Reaver Cleaver.
Cleaving.
Good and good pickup range.